Welcome to my part 2 of RPA, and the primary question which I'm dealing with is RPA, is it complementary or conflicting? Let's look at what I'm going to cover in this block. Path to future process, because how I see things now, the future process would be highly automated wherever required, of course, because we want more efficient processes to deliver the value to the customer. So that's how I see it. And the part 1 which I've covered in my previous blog, this is the part 2 of RPA. And primarily I'm going to deal with a quick recap on RPA and a little bit about lean applicability and RPA and what is the relevance of lean in this context, and some case studies quickly. And part 3, of course, having done all the automation and improvement and most of the tasks are taken away from the humans, and what humans are going to do, is there an impact? If yes, which are the areas where human can contribute, where machines absolutely will not have any place to contribute? That's how I'm going to deal with part 3 of my blog, which is going to be the next step. Now, what is RPA? And everybody knows it, robotic process automation. The question is there going to be a robot which is going to sit next to you and then you are going to deal with it? Absolutely, it's not. It's primarily an automation. There are softwares available, softwares will be generated, and then primarily you apply on a process which is highly routine in nature, structured, rules driven, and schedules and events, and repetitive in nature, and huge voluminous transactions where human beings are either tired or boredom, and you keep doing it and you will not be efficient and you will take a lot of time and you make a lot of errors as well. Those areas are good candidate for perfect process automation. And the robot is asking now, good candidates for RPA, which are the ones? Can you suggest? Some of the areas where I have listed here, this is not an exhaustive list, of course. Insurance claims, accounts reconciliation, sales order creation, payroll processing, customer service, and invoicing process. Primarily, these are the areas, some of them, of course, where you will find RPA is absolutely possible. And the question is, the robot is asking, do I need to do all the work? Absolutely not, because I still there. I still exist. Why? Because creative thinking, critical thinking, decision making, problem solving, reasoning, and there are many other areas where human only can contribute. Human capabilities can be really utilized when you have a perfect automation, because I'll focus on something which machine cannot do. That's how I envisage. Benefits. So the robot is giving you the benefits, automation primarily. These are the primary benefits: errors completely eliminated, 100% compliance, and then the processing time substantially will be reduced. The answer is, only automation is going to give you the benefit of processing time reduction? I don't think so. That's why I'm going to bring in lean in this context, because you can't just automate a process step or a process where primarily those steps are non-value adding. So that's why the processing time reduction is not only coming from the process automation, but also the lean principle, which I'm going to talk about in my next slide. So lean says, I'm the first. So why you have to be the first? Because before you take all the processes to automation, suppose for example, I have given a simple visualization. These are the steps or tasks in the process, for example, or this is the value chain of a company, for example. So primarily, I don't want to take every step, task, or the stage to automation. So I apply lean and of course Six Sigma principle, and then okay, these steps are not at all required primarily because these are all non-value, these are all repetitive in the sense checking duplicate activities, not first time right. These are the legacy process steps and people have been doing for centuries. So I'm going to look at the lean principle and apply on those processes, and then lean gives you, don't do all those 6 or 7 stages, just do these 3, and then I'm going to apply automation. It will give you enormous benefit to the company. The primary aim of lean and automation to marry each other is creating value to the customer. That's how we need to do. I don't want to automate just because automation is a possibility. If I summarize, an highly inefficient, highly variant, inconsistent, defect prone processes, apply lean, bring it up to efficiency, stability, defect free process, and then go for automation, which will give you more optimized return. I don't want to automate a process which is going to produce much faster defects than before. That's not the way to look at it. Now, if I summarize lean and RPA, on these quadrants, if you look at ease of doing is the RPA. Lean is of course efficient. Efficient means less amount of time, less steps, less resource, I do more, right? So highly inefficient and highly tedious is this quadrant because no RPA, no automation, and it's completely no lean. It's an unlean process. Naturally it is tedious and inefficient. Second is efficient because you have done lean, but highly tedious process because still you do a lot of activities manually, and then no automation is done. So naturally it is highly tedious. And here it is ease of doing is absolutely excellent because you have done a lot of automation, but you didn't ask few questions why those steps have been automated. That's why it is less efficient, because it does a lot of steps in the whole scheme of things. But ultimately what I want is efficient and highly ease of doing a process execution. This is the stage we need to achieve. That's why you need lean before RPA. Now, a simple case study I'm going to share with you, a couple of slides only, just to drive home the point, lean, applicability, and the RPA. Now, for example, here the customers are giving you the documents. This is a credit card process, for example, and a lot of documents, applications, supportings, and so on and so forth. And since there is a central processing unit, naturally the batching is happening and there is a transportation. As per lean principle, transportation is definitely a waste, non-value, time consuming. Customer is not going to be happy, he is going to be irritated, and then there is a lot of checking is happening at this stage, and you can see the work in progress in between. Work in progress means there are a lot of applications waiting, and then data entry is done in the system. So the moment I say system, is not automated. Instead of writing in a piece of paper or register, I'm going to do it in the system. That's the only inefficient process here, I'm describing. And finally, all the applications done and data entry is done, customer profile is created and card is printed, and the card goes back to the customer. And can you see the process cycle efficiency is just 2%? Why? Because all these steps, only 2% of the time or 2% of the activities, steps adding value to the customer, and really you add value to the transaction. 98% of the time you're inefficient, the process is inefficient, waste, waiting, no value addition. That's the way the process is. Let's look at when you apply lean and the automation, what will happen to the process, how the process itself first looks like. Let's look at it. Look at this process, completely lean is done and customer is giving the application same. The applications are fed into the system. The data entry comes through the system, in fact, and then the system checks internally, and data entry is done by the system, checking is done by the system. If there is a mismatch, there is a mail goes back to the customer saying these are the mismatch, and the directly the data entry or the information is shared by the customer, automatically it goes to the system, checking is done, and good information, final, pruned down applications, customer information goes to the next, and then it gets uploaded, cards printed, and finally it goes back to the customer. Can you see the process cycle efficiency of 100%? Why? Because all the activities are first time, right? And it moves faster. And can you see the time it takes? Only just 55 minutes compared to the previous one, which used to take almost 3 to 4 days to complete. That's why the efficiency is high. This is a highly automated, repetitive task where human touch point is not at all required. And look at, now let me summarize before I handle this particular slide. There is an inefficient process, I apply lean, and finally I have a handful of process steps, tasks or stages, and I have to classify the final pruned down optimized one into attended and unattended. Why I need to do this? Attended means there is a partial automation, which means still there are few steps where human being has to initiate. And for example, customer complaint is a good area of attended. Unattended means absolutely you and me, you don't need to worry about what's happening inside the system, and continuously standalone robots perform the workflows, no human attention is required, and report automation is one such example. So when you complete a process engineering, attended, unattended classification, attended means partial, unattended means complete. So classify and then you go for RPA, will give you enormous amount of benefit and efficiency and effectiveness. Now, what is the final summary of RPA benefits? I look at it this way: productivity goes up, errors eliminated, and efficiency goes up, and lead time substantially reduced, and scale up is absolutely possible. These are the benefits and these are the metrics we need to have. Automation is not a standalone. Automation is not the end in mind. It is an enabler to achieve these. That's how I see it. And just a simple example, in case of business wise, if I have to give some example, banking, insurance, utility sector are all good candidates for automation. There are many other sectors as well. These are all some of the handpicked examples. A simple example to drive home the point: when re-engineering is done and classify attended unattended, now I have human versus robots, where human is required application collection and verification, data gathering, accounts creation, card printing, where absolutely I don't need any human intervention, where robots take over the software, routines will take over, and then it does the magic. And finally, probably a human has to deliver it to the customer. As simple as that. So every process, if you classify this after lean applicability, wherever human requirement, wherever the robot requirement, rest will be taken care. And finally, having done all this, what's the approach? So before you jump to automation, just go step by step. The first step would be process improvement. Take a process, look at from the lean perspective, optimize it, find an improvement opportunity, prune down, reduce, eliminate, optimize the process, then go for automation. And then finally, the measurement is very important. I also mentioned in my previous slide, efficiency, productivity, elimination of errors, and the processing time coming down. These are all important metrics. RPA is not the end in mind. RPA to deliver the impact which I wanted to create, value creation to the customer. So that's all from my end, and the next part I'm going to handle impact on employment, because completely machine is going to take over. What will happen to my work? As I mentioned, 80% of my activities or 80% of my time, now machine is going to take over, and I'm free about 70 to 80%. What am I going to do? What kind of a skill set is required? How to upgrade my skills? Which are the areas, so that I'm not left out? Definitely machine cannot replace human. It is complementing it. So which are the areas I'm going to cover in my next blog, and suggestions for those areas from my experience and what I have done certain research areas, and what a person has to do to improve their skills. That's what I'm going to cover. Please watch out this space. This is my blog site, Leaning Towards Six Sigma. You will find a couple of other videos also on Lean and Six Sigma, and specifically the part 3 of my concluding part series in the 3 video blog series about RPA. I'm going to release in a couple of days. Please do watch out, and please do subscribe if you like it, and also comment if you have any experience about RPA. You have certain viewpoint, will add a lot of value adding in what I am sharing. Please do that. Thank you so much. See you in my next blog. Stay safe.